I would like to say greetings to everybody. I fell into deep despair earlier. And I'm doing a little better right now. I thought what I would do, and if I fail, I fail. I've written parts of 2 screenplays to be made for motion pictures. One of them is called Love Never Dies, and another one is called Overnight Sensation. I've outlined them, I've written some of it, but not quite completed. And what I thought I would do is try my best right now to share the storylines of one or maybe both of these screenplays. They're made to be motion pictures. Yes.
Sorry, it's Anna. I got some.
Oh,
You can.
you are so.
You okay?
Yeah.
No.
You know
Alright.
I just took a hit.
Huh?
I just took a hit.
Oh, I got you. I see.
You're okay with that, right?
I'm
You don't.
I'm
You don't.
used to it.
Yeah.
My daughter's in Denver, remember?
Oh, okay.
It's legal there.
Right.
But it's surrounded everywhere. But I don't know what they are. Armin just brought them.
They're croissants.
Yes, they are, but some of them has like filling.
Maybe
and
I'll put them in the refrigerator.
Yeah, the.
You're so lovely, and
Yeah.
I should return these to you.
No, it's okay.
'Cause these-
So you
these
may
are
wanna,
expensive.
if you can't finish it, then obviously if you can't finish it, just write like the date and put it in the freezer, and whenever you get to it, because
I'll
that's what I
finish it
do.
all right.
Yeah, that's what I do with mine.
Oh,
I
you're
get-
you're such a good friend.
I know. It's like, well, we're neighbors.
Oh,
Alrighty, well, enjoy that.
I owe you so much.
No, it's okay. We'll do some more coffee next time.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks.
All right, good night.
Night. That was my neighbor, Anna, and someone she knows works in a bakery, and she brought me these beautiful croissants, and they're so delicious, and God, she's just too nice to me. Just when I was taking a hit. I'm gonna put these in the refrigerator. Isn't she wonderful? So the first one is called Overnight Sensation. Actually, I would much prefer to tell the story of Love Never Dies. Scene one. A beautiful green hills with a road running through it and a car driving on the road with pretty music, and the credits start showing. And then it zooms into the car, and it's an elderly man in the passenger seat and a woman, a younger woman, and it turns out she starts and says, "Now, Dad, you know we thought it would be better this way. It just wasn't working out. You living alone." And there's some witty dialogue about the cynicism that her dad, his name is Seymour, and he moves into the retirement home, an elderly man. I could go through lots of detail of how he acclimates and how the staff attends to him. And there's one staff member, a black man. His name is Andy. And they sort of hit it off and see eye to eye, even though you can see in Seymour's eyes a sadness. He is a gregarious, outgoing type person. You could tell that about him. The character development in the opening minutes is uncanny. And we shoot later, and Anne, the daughter of Seymour, says goodbye. She says, "I know you're going to like it here, Daddy." And she gives him a kiss. And Seymour hugs his daughter, says, "I love you, Anna." And Anna says, "I love you too, Daddy." Cut to a time later in the day. It's dinner time, and they eat at 5:30 p.m. Andy calls out to Seymour, "Seymour, I want to get you oriented to how things work here. It's time for dinner." And there's a great shot of Seymour looking at his clock, and it reads 5:30, and he just makes an unusual face, as if it's absurdly early to eat dinner. And as he's walking over there, he goes, "What time is bedtime?" And Andy laughs. "You're going to like it here very well, Mr. Seymour." So Seymour goes to the line at the kitchen and picks up his meal, and he notices a woman sitting alone, and he says, "Would you mind if I sit here?" And the woman, a somewhat frail, elderly woman named Helen, reluctantly agrees. And she doesn't like him at all. Seymour is being his gregarious self, telling jokes. And if only you all knew how I have this in my mind, so I may not be getting it out perfectly, but just imagine this is really great. And I might as well speed it up because I'm a little dizzy now anyway, and depressed. I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest. They fall in love. And there's a scene where he sneaks off into her bedroom and he lies beside her. And she says, "I feel so good being held by you," Helen says. And Seymour, a widower, by the way, he was a widower for about a year, and that's why they took him to this home. And he begins to make love to Helen. Yes, Seymour, under the covers, is on top of her. And it's done very tastefully for a PG rating. And after doing that a while, he turns around onto his back and throws his arms down in frustration. And Helen says, "Seymour, it's okay." And Seymour says, "It really?" And Helen says, "Yes. I feel closer to you than any act of sex could capture. Now hold me, Seymour, hold me again." And Seymour holds her, and they exchange sweet whispers to one another, and then it's quiet. And Seymour says, "Helen?" And Helen replies, "Yes, Seymour." And Seymour goes, "I think I'm getting hard again." And the audience erupts in laughter. It's a beautiful moment. They become an item. And some people complain that he's going into her bedroom. And the administrator actually looks up their rules and policies, and they say there's nothing in here that could legally prevent them, allow us to prevent them from doing this. But the administrator does call the daughter who brought the daughter Anne, who brought her father to the retirement home. This is good. This gets to be good. And in a phone call, the administrator, Mrs. Barnes, Barnes, explains to Anna, the daughter, Seymour's daughter, and explains that they are romantically involved and quite possibly having sexual relations. And Anna's reaction is taken aback, and she says, "I'm coming over and I'm going to have a talk with him," meaning Seymour. And who knows, during the editing process, a lot of the scenes might be thrown off, but we get a nice shot of Anna driving the car with a look on her face. You gotta understand, her mother died a year ago, and Seymour, her father, who survived her, he's a widower, has now been taken to a retirement home, really an adult congregate facility. And Anna has a good talk with Seymour, and it's pretty intense, the conversation. And, well, who is this woman, she asks. And defensively, her father, Seymour, finally says, Helen is a precious soul. I love her dearly. And Anna says, "Oh, Daddy. Mom has been gone for only a year, and now you're getting involved with another woman?" And Anna is irritated and closed down. And I can't act it well, but if you could imagine it, Seymour, Anna, I love Helen. And for you to want to deprive me of that is very hurtful to me. I don't understand. How are things with you and Larry, your husband? And the tears start to flow from Anna's face. Not good, Daddy. And we're growing apart, she says. Well, somehow that conversation ends, and it's an intense conversation. And at the end of it, Seymour says to his daughter, Anna, "Anna, how's Stacy?" "Not good, Daddy. she's going out with this really dirty kid named Carlos with tattoos and nostril rings. And Seymour sort of stoically shakes his head and says, Anna, tell Stacy that her papa wants to see her. Cut to the assistant there, Andy, who I told you about. He's a black dude, and he seems like a cool guy, like an ally of Seymour's. And Andy knocks on his door, and he tells him, there's someone here to see you. And she goes, Poppy! And I said Papa earlier. That was a mistake. It's Poppy, okay? Poppy. Poppy! And he goes, Stacy, my love. And they sit, they talk, they do some how-to things. How you doing? Small talk, the weather. And she goes, and I'm going out with Carlos. And Seymour says, is that Carlos standing outside in the hallway? Right outside the door? She says, yeah, I told him, let me just come in for the visit. And Seymour turns his head, like something like that, looks, and shakes his head. Again, Carlos has spiked hair, but sort of like a mohawk. He's got 2 rings here. He's got a ring coming out of his mouth and one out of his eyebrow. Tattooed heavily. Again, his name is Carlos. And this happens in like 2 seconds. It's just hard for me to describe it accurately in that time. It's so visual. And he shakes his head stoically, and he says, Stacy, does he treat you good? And Stacy goes, yeah, he does, Poppy. He really does. And he puts his arm around her. And there's sort of a beautiful, this is more a commentary about the story. There's a beautiful, both relationships have a beautiful semblance. And maybe, to make it more realistic, I mean, there'd be humor in that, to have Carlos have the rings and all that. But between relationships that people are against. Mommy doesn't like him, but I love him. It's a beautiful little thing. And the visit's over. Now I'm going to give you the conclusion of this screenplay, which I have written down an outline, some paragraphs, some just as a screenplay. And I'm going to bring you back with the conclusion of the movie Love Never Dies, based on the story by Jeffrey Guterman. You could even call it a short story. And also screenplay co-written by Jeffrey Guterman and whoever I would be able to get to do it. I will come back, reorient you to the story of Seymour, a widower for 1 year who moves reluctantly to a adult living facility, and all the characters, including Helen, Seymour's daughter Anne, and now we learn her husband Larry, her daughter Stacy, and Carlos, her boyfriend. Maybe we wouldn't make him look as bizarre so that it wouldn't, it just might be more realistic. Andy, the ally at the ALF. Mrs. Barnes, a very small role thus far. And there's lots of extras, you know, people bustling around. I'll be back with a conclusion, and I think you're going to like it a lot. I just hope I could pull it off very well. One morning, Andy notices that Seymour and Helen are missing. And apparently, as it turns out, they had to have been missing since last night. So they probably went out at night and never came back. Andy tells Mrs. Barnes, the administrator, and she says, "What do you mean they're missing?" And she starts searching around, and she tells all the staff, "Look for them, look outside the grounds, look for them." And Mrs. Barnes calls Anne, Seymour's daughter, to notify them. And she's hysterical, and she drives over with Stacy and Carlos, as it's the afternoon now. And finally, the decision is made at the ALF, the Adult Living Facility, to notify the police of a missing persons, which they do. And the police get a description, get it out on the media, and get an all-out search. And finally, a call comes in on police dispatch, and you can hear it. You can actually see it transform. The scenes shift to other police officers who hear it on their radios. Oh, Trent 35 coming in here, clear. I think we have those two elderly people, found them at the beach. They both say they came from an ALF. Hey, Sarge, I think we found them. The police immediately notify the ALF, Mrs. Barnes. Mrs. Barnes lets Anne know, and therefore Stacy knows. I don't know where Carlos's head is at. And they all converge on the beach. And it's an incredible final scene of a back and forth of all the people, all the characters saying pithy comments about it. And Anna says, "Well, what do you think you're doing?" And Seymour says, as everyone listens in, a nice sized crowd, Andy, "Helen and I were sitting on the beach. It's a beautiful night." "Well, you had us scared." Is there anything that says, "You had us scared. Where you shouldn't have done that. You can't do that. You can't run out." And Barney says, "Wait a minute." And he goes into a big speech that will go down as one of the greatest speeches ever in cinematography, in film history. And he says, "And why are you all worried about me? Maybe because if you looked hard at yourself, you'd see that there's something missing in your life. What's missing in your life? Anna. And Anna's eyes enveloped with tears. They don't come out. And she starts spilling her guts. And Stacy says, "Oh, Mom." And Carlos comes behind and puts an embrace. And then Seymour says something so nice to just lift the moods of everybody and feel that something big has happened. And he looks at his watch and he says, "I have 5:30 in the morning." Anyone want to join me for breakfast? My treat. There's a diner right behind them. And everyone cheers. And Carlos, with his fist, goes, "Yeah!" And Seymour puts his arm around his daughter Anna as they walk, and Helen comes up and holds their hands too. Fade in to Willie Nelson's version of All of Me. Why not take all of me? Credits roll. And that I would say is a pretty fair account of my original screenplay. Love Never Dies. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll do Overnight Sensation another time.